So, like, how are y'all mad at the police or anybody else disrespecting black people when we are the worst for each other?
How'd you see what's going on with Florida and their Black History?
That when I saw that shit, I was like, dude, he really wilding, man. Dude be doing what he want to do.
Hold on, let's bring it up because we gotta pretend that the listeners don't know nothing about what we talking about. So we gotta introduce the topic, Blade. I'm trying to make my friends better podcasters. So we informed. We gotta pretend that our listeners don't know what the fuck is going on.
I think our listeners are informed.
Yeah, no, I said I know.
I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt.
No, yeah, you can give them the benefit of the doubt, but I'm trying to make us a better podcast. So we do have a show to do. So DeSantis apparently they're proposing to teach that that slavery had a positive effect on the black community. If y'all not familiar, so
they saying that slavery taught black people should be happy that because slavery taught us skills
and how to work with our hands.
Yeah.
Or how
it was for our personal benefit, I believe.
That was
his exact statement. It was for our personal benefit.
Our personal benefit. So that's what they're proposing down in Florida.
I slap the shit out, dude, man.
Hey, they'll teach that, but they won't put the real history of slavery in the history books.
Bro, they erasing it. That's what they doing. Think about it. They said they not gonna even teach about slavery, and then they turn around and say, well, it was a benefit to it. So like the next generation, like, further on, they not gonna know what that shit is, and that's crazy.
They only doing that because these new kids not with that shit. White, black, whatever. Like like these newer white kids, like they're just not for that shit. Like they calling their grandparents out now. Like they feel like y'all full of shit. So that I feel like is the whole thing. Like they're just trying to keep these new generations under control because as you can see, as they come, they're more. They don't care. They cutting up. So I think that's really more so what they're doing, trying their best to try to keep everybody under control. Because you get the right one that's really mad. And these young folks get amped up, they're definitely gonna do something about it. Y'all thought the Capitol riot was something. Wait until y'all get all the niggas together, and then the non-niggas together that sick of y'all shit, y'all will be outnumbered. And that's what they don't want.
Facts, yeah. Because these kids, like I said, these liberal children are starting to drive their parents crazy. and they ain't going for it. Like I said, this whole liberal movement is getting under these conservative skins, and they're not having it. So what they're basically doing, with critical race theory, and I did have a slight issue with critical race theory, and it was only the way that the teachers were so militant teaching it. Not saying it wasn't needed, but I think if they would have had a softer approach and kind of like,
I didn't think it needed to be an entire curriculum.
I did, and that might be a part of the problem as well, Blaze, because I feel like it needed to be a part of the curriculum. I just felt like the teachers and it's might not have been everybody, but from every time I saw somebody teaching critical race theory online or a teacher discussing it, they were always like extremely militant in their approach. You know what I mean? And that was the only issue that I've ever had. But I felt like we should have been a little bit more strategic in weaving it into curriculum. You know what I mean? But sometimes you got to be straightforward or cause blunt trauma for people to learn, because we already know 90% of society is kind of a little slow. You know what I mean? But that was the only issue I had with it. But like to my point, the critical race theory was being introduced, and it was like I said, it was really informing white people on how bad the effects of slavery and Jim Crow and sharecropping and everything, industrial area, how bad it really affected us, redlining and everything. You know what I mean? So it kind of, like I said, it was starting to militarize even some white kids. You know what I'm saying? So now we at this point now where they didn't want to be taught at all, and they pretty much did away with it in Florida. They hardly teach it here. They hardly teach even black history in Texas, and now they're trying to teach that it's to our benefit that we were enslaved.
Hey, that's crazy though. Like,
you've never indirectly got caught the N-word like this.
Oh yeah,
like they hitting us with the hard ER, like right in our face with that shit.
Facts. Yeah. Hey, but one thing I can say about DeSantis though, like, dude really do get through anything. Like he get, if he say he gonna do something, he get real, and that show you that these politicians could do more than they want to do. When they want to do some bullshit, they pull it off. Because he be pulling off some crazy shit.
Yeah, he's wild. So like, I'm gonna pull up this article here where he clapped back at Kamala Harris because Kamala Harris had some an opposing opinion, obviously, because she's a woman of black descent, air quote. Right. But it says Florida government.
She finally said something.
Right. She finally said
something.
She's
been missing for 2 years.
For 2 years, I ain't seen her. But it said Florida Governor Ron DeSantis called Vice President Kamala Harris' criticism of the controversial Black History standards recently adopted by the state's Board of Education absolutely ridiculous. During a Friday campaign stop in Utah. I'm sorry, y'all. What he's saying, driving the news. The standard approves that this week includes instructions for public schools students in Florida that enslaved people develop skills which were, in some instances, could be applied for their benefits. They dared to push this propaganda to our children, Harris said Friday, denouncing that the updated Black History curriculum per the AP Associated Press. What he's saying is just totally outrageous. DeSantis, the GOP's presidential candidate, said that. Said at the Utah Capitol alongside dozens of state lawmakers, they are the most robust standards in African American history, probably anywhere in the country. She's going to come down to the states of Florida and try to chirp and try to demigod, he said, referring to Harris's trip to Jacksonville, Florida on Friday. DeSantis said that he wasn't involved in any development of the new curriculum and referred to the questions to the Florida Department of Education. They're probably going to show is some of the folks that eventually parlayed being a blacksmith into doing things later in life, he said. I'll just stop there. But anyway, y'all can go read this article on Exos. It says DeSantis fires back to Kamala Harris over Black History standards. But this just goes to show you how, to Blaze's point earlier, they're trying to completely whitewash away Black Americans' contribution to the United States of America. They act like we didn't have great empires, like the pyramids wasn't built, like we don't have nothing, that we didn't do nothing before we came to this continent. And so it's
like if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't know shit.
We wouldn't know shit. That's why I kind of chuckled like through it, because to me it's just it's utterly ridiculous, and this is why
it's funny, and like I chuckle too, but like that's some serious shit, bro. Like like when you think farther down the line, bro, like motherfuckers really gonna grow up thinking slavery was like, we looked out for black people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mental illness is real,
bro.
They gotta be stopped
from mental illness.
So
it's a mental illness.
So everybody. But no, let me try before I'll let you continue. But to me, like, this is what grinds my gears, and this is why we try to teach so much history on the show. Because I gotta say grind my gear, because I be trying to be PC, bro. I'm trying to scale back the cussing a little bit because I get a little too out of control. But this is why this shit pisses me off. Really, that's what I want to say. This is why this shit pisses me off, because we have black people who think that we should not at all be kind of reverting back to history lessons and teaching these lessons in school at all. We got people that think we almost in a post-racial society. I've literally had people tell me we don't need reparations, even though there's been plenty of other cultures in this country that have been repaired. You know what I mean? And then also like in order for us to get reparations, America has to acknowledge that slavery, their atrocities against black people. They have to acknowledge slavery and all that, and we just don't do it. We don't do it at all, and they refuse to, because they know in order for them, if they acknowledge it and apologize for it, they're going to have to repair us. And this is part and parcel of the problem why we need to, because Black history is American history. We are some of the greatest contributions to America's. To the modern America to this day, we have some of the greatest contributions. And I ain't got to go down the line. Like I said, y'all can go down and listen to the podcast. We didn't put the history out there, so I ain't got to keep beating a dead horse. But this is why we have to continue to fight the fight and to make people see us as human, like and to treat us humane, because this is one of the biggest things right here. Why this type of shit happens right in here, because they don't want us to be. We were brought here to develop this country. We wasn't brought here to be a part of it, and this is why you have to do your damnedest to make sure that we uphold certain standards in this country. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely.
Trey, you were going to say something before I went on my tangent. I'm sorry, bro.
Teach. teach. You teach.
No, I just agree with you, bro. Like absolutely, because we constantly year after year we just last on the totem pole in this great country of America that we live in. You know what I mean? So no, absolutely, bro. We need to be teaching that history in our homes first.
Facts.
Like, we got the kids can't go. The kids got to go to school and already knowing what the history is before they taught that bullshit anyway.
Yeah, we had a great community in Milwaukee. And at times it really didn't seem like it, but once you live elsewhere, you'd be like, damn, man, we had a phenomenal community of aunts and uncles and just community leaders, everybody, man, who kept us in the know when it came to Black history and giving us knowledge of ourselves. Like as much as cats wild out back there, like we had a phenomenal community. I remember every year, man, my aunt would take us to like, I don't even know the name of these events because I was too young to remember, but I knew the Black National Anthem when I was younger. You know what I mean? Everything, fam. And then when you get to another state or you meet a kid nowadays and you ask them if they know somebody simple, somebody like Malcolm X, they don't have no clue who he is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's by design, like you said, man. That shit by design.
Yeah. But if you're just now tuning in, the reason we're talking about, you know, Black history right now is because Governor DeSantis and the great state of Florida have decided to, I won't say Governor DeSantis, but the school system in Florida decided to teach that slavery was beneficial to Blacks. And like,
that's so
I can't even say it without I can't even say it without laughing. I gotta chuckle a little bit because it's yeah.
Leslie, they are calling us hard ERs to our face indirectly.
They're definitely playing in our face. But the reason why they feel that they can play in our face is because we play in our own face. We play in our own face. So
that's true, sis.
You know, like for me, like I used to I never would speak on the topics like with like the police killing Black people. Like I would just always keep my opinions to myself because y'all know, like I'm a logical person. Like to me, stuff has to make sense. Is it okay for a police officer to kill a Black person? Absolutely not. But it's also not okay for little folks to go kill big folks. So like, how are y'all mad at the police or anybody else disrespecting Black people when we are the worst for each other? Let's think about, I'm gonna go back to the riots again when they cut up at the Capitol. All those white folks came together. Half of them probably couldn't even stand each other, but they can come together for their greater cause. But we as Black people, we can't come together for a greater cause. And we really need to be together. Like we must stand together or we are screwed. And here y'all go mad because
we can't come together for a cookout.
Yeah, you mad because she liked your man picture on Instagram and you mad because we are so petty when it comes to like the serious stuff, and unless we come together, we really cannot expect for others to really give us that respect that we want because we don't even respect ourselves. And that's just my opinion. I don't agree with none of the shit that they do to us, but we have to take ourselves more serious before we expect anybody else to take us serious.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
I agree, and I agree to a point. You know what I mean? Because that's another topic where that's kind of made up too. You know what I mean? Anywhere that you live at, the people that you're around, that's probably the people you're gonna kill when crime is being committed. You know what I mean? If you go to a city where there's mostly white people, most of the crimes that are committed there are white on white crime. You go to an Asian community, most of the crimes committed is Asian on Asian. You know what I'm saying? That's something else to me that's made up too, that only Blacks do this because that's all that they report on the news. You know what I mean?
I agree with that, but I agree with what you're saying to a certain extent, but I don't care about what white people do to white people. I don't care about what Asian people do to Asian people. I'm caring about us. And I'm talking about what the hell we need to do. I don't give a damn what y'all need to do. Right. I'm talking about us as Black people because we are the ones that's really suffering. When they were doing that shit to the Asian people, everybody love Asians, put Asians first, Asian lives. Like, excuse me?
That's probably
yeah, their lives matter, but where was the outrage when it's Black people?
Yeah, it ain't no outrage. Absolutely. It ain't no outrage, Leslie, because that shit is propaganda and it's generated by a machine to let us know what place we stand in this country. So let me offer you some pushback because to Trey's point, like you said, some of that stuff is fabricated, it's made up about the Black on Black crime, and whatever community you deal with, that's the community you're gonna most likely do crime in. They don't publicize that stuff as much as they publicize the Black violence and the Black outrage. Like I said, America is one of Black culture is one of the oldest cultures in this country, and it's the culture that white people that America, I say white, I keep saying white people, I'm sorry, trying to get away from saying, but that America understands the least is Black culture, right? And it's one of the largest exports in this country, and one of the largest exports from our community is us, the swag, the persona, the music, the culture, the food. Like it's one of the biggest one of the biggest exports, right? And America understands the least. But to our point about the communities, everything that we fight over in our community typically is resources. If people made a livable wage, a middle class wage, we wouldn't have these fights in our communities, like you know what I mean, and these killings and this senseless violence. We really wouldn't have it. And you can look into other communities totally where agree. Black people where Black people are doing better, and they don't have these same fights over resources. You about to move to one. You know what I'm saying? So like all this stuff is done by design. Like, you know what I mean? Like, have y'all seen that movie? No, actually, I'll save that for our next topic. I'm sorry, I thought it was a good segue point, but we'll shoot off into that later. But anyway, to my point, like I said, this ain't all this stuff is done by design. Redlining, like I like to use this as a example all the time. We talked about Black Wall Street all the time on the show. Black people, they always use Black Wall Street as a good talking point to show, like, hey, we were pulling ourselves by our bootstraps at one point in this nation, right? There's so many other towns that are like Black Wall Street. I think we even talked about it last week on the podcast with Kent. But what we failed to do is talk about what happened after the race riots in Black Wall Street. They rebuilt the community. It was actually more wealthy and a more fervent community after they rebuilt it. And then what happened? What they came through and built a highway straight through the middle of it and divided the community even further. They redlined Black people on one side of town and the whites on the other, and that kind of ran down Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's just a little brief paraphrase history on it. So one thing I would just want everybody to understand is, like, everything that's been done to us, not that we are ultimately victims, but the reason why we're in these communities, the reason things happen is typically a fight over resources. And in these communities, we gotta do better, but it takes education, it takes shows like this, it takes media to kind of spread the word and get these conversations happening. Because not a lot of people, as long as you within the mess, you really can't even think straight while you're there. I know when I was growing up living there, I only thought a certain way. It took me years to unprogram everything that I learned growing up in that community. You know what I'm saying? The bad stuff, I should say, because I, as I pointed to earlier, I learned a lot of good stuff, and it set a really good foundation for me as a Black man. You know what I mean? But the bad stuff I'm more so speaking to is hard to unprogram yourself from. Y'all gotta forgive me because I'm struggling a little bit with my voice today. I know y'all heard me coughing earlier.
Need some Wawa.
Yeah, I've been drinking them over here. I got the Ozark on deck, the spring. Get
you that Ricola.
The Ricola, nah. But yeah. Mm-hmm. But speaking of that, man, but yeah, like, I named today's episode, Did They Clone Jamie?